Hi friends, welcome to the Plain Fun RC channel. I'm your host Saul, and we have started the build of the Aerosky Beachcraft B60 Duke. We're starting with the tail services. Here we've got our horizontal stabilizer, and we're using 9-gram servos, as you can see here. Pretty straightforward. We use some silicone glue to hold the servos in place. You probably could use hot glue, but in the past when I've used hot glue with EPP, it tends to melt the EPP a little too much, so we just opted not to do that. So silicone glue works really well. The surfaces themselves were not hinged. When the mold was created for the horizontal stabilizer in the elevator, the only thing you had connecting it was a very thin layer of foam. So you take a little knife, you cut that, and you just go through and you just insert the pin hinges that come with the kit. They can be epoxied in place, and here's one of the pin hinges there. Very small, very tiny, but you can see it there. And then after that, you're just going to go ahead and shift your focus over to the vertical stabilizer. Pretty straightforward. You just go ahead and insert a 9-gram servo as well, and that's really all you need to do with it. Very straightforward. We also went ahead and used some just some packing tape to hold the lead in place that in the pre-cut slot. Now on the tail service here, this is the rear of the fuselage. There are these pieces that the kit comes with right here. I've got my thumb on it. They need to be epoxied in place, but that's it. And then what you'll do is then you'll just take you're going to take the horizontal stabilizer and the vertical stabilizer. You're going to bolt it to this piece, and then this piece will then get attached to the rear of the fuselage, just like that. And that's all there is to it. Very straightforward. And for the most part, you've got majority of the fuselage done. All right, friends, let's go ahead and finish getting the rear control surfaces attached to the rear piece. More to come. All right, friends, there's our rear section. Very straightforward. Just have 3 bolts, 1 bolt to hold the horizontal stabilizer in place, and then you just pass 2 through the bottom, as you can see right there, to hold the vertical stabilizer in place. And that's it. And now this section will get glued onto the rear of the fuselage. Let's get it glued. Ta-da! There we go. All right, we got the tail attached. We're gonna let that dry, and we'll shift our focus to the wing. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, we're gonna shift our focus. Instead of going to the wing, we're gonna go to the nose gear. We have here a nose gear retract from a crashed FMS Yak EDF jet. And it's perfect. It's an absolute perfect fit. You can see it just kind of drops right into the slot, which is great. And what makes this such a great nose gear is if you look very carefully right here at the this little rod, you'll notice that it has a wheel collar, and that push rod attaches to that rod, and it just slides up and down. So as the retract retracts, this just slides up, and when it extends, this slides down. So the only thing we need to do is we just need to go in, and we're going to remove some of the wood here. We need to get rid of this. This is where the servo would normally sit on the stock configuration, and we're going to reposition the servo back here. I heard from one gentleman who had this plane. He said, don't use the pull. He said it's garbage, it's junk, it doesn't work. So unfortunately, we're going to use this. Let me show you the configuration, how it's going to look. This is a Sukhoi, EDF Sukhoi, and you can look right in there, and you can see the exact configuration. How it's, whoops, there you go, how it's going to work in there, how the servo is going to sit in there, and how exactly it steers. All right, friends, let's go ahead and get our nose gear installed on our Duke, and more to come. All right, friends, you can see we've got our nose gear installed, and it just looks fantastic. As mentioned, we had to go ahead and cut away some of the wood that was over here, and of course clear some of the foam for the steering servo, but it just works great. So you can see our steering works fantastic when the gear is extended, and when the gear is retracted, give it a second, you can see the steering still works. And then we'll bring it back down. Perfect. Fantastic. All right, friends, we're going to go ahead and shift our focus to the wing. More to come. All right, friends, we're shifting our focus now to getting the wing together. We've got our flaps here, which we've got to go ahead and install. We also have to install our retract, and we've got our 2 pockets here for servos, and we need to go ahead and put our hinges in place for the aileron. And you can see there's just a very thin little foam hinge there. That actually has to be cut, and we've got to put our pin hinges in place here as well. And then we'll shift our focus over to getting the motor installed, and then finally what will happen, this center section here that lifts up will to allow all the wires to pass through the retracts and the servos and the motor. This will wind up getting glued in place. So, all right, folks, let's go ahead and shift our focus to the wing. More to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, we are continuing with our wing. Let's talk about what we've got going on here. So you can see we've gone ahead, we've installed our flap servo and our aileron servo, and we've gone ahead, in addition to installing the flap and aileron servo, we've also gone ahead and glued our spar in place. Now, I strongly recommend, we're looking at the right side of the wing, I strongly recommend gluing the spar in place on one half of the wing before going through and gluing the bottom halves in place. So in addition to going ahead and gluing our spar in place, we are now shifting our focus over to our ESCs. And you can see what we've got going on here. We've just got 2 80 amp ESCs from a crashed F-22. They were initially soldered together. So I realized with this plane, we're going to have to do the same thing. We're going to have to solder the ESCs together because there just is not enough room in the battery tray for 2 batteries, 1 for each motor. So what we did was the following. We took the wires from the ESC and we went ahead and we linked them together, as you can see right here. And that worked perfect. Now, to determine exactly where to link them, we actually put the ESCs in the wing like so, ran the wires through the channel that's in the wing, and then that allowed me to go ahead and determine roughly where they need to be joined because they're going to be coming out of here. And then they go to a single EC5 connector here. So that works out great. So the ESCs are ready. All we're doing now is just waiting for the motors to arrive, the motors I ordered. And then once we have those, then it's just a matter of going ahead, getting those in place, getting our retracts in, and then for the most part, the plane is done. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, our motor has arrived. It is by a company called Race Star. I found it through Banggood. It's only about 30 bucks. And this little motor will actually hold or work with up to a 5S lithium. And you can see it's very small. It sits in the palm of my hand. The mount is glued in place. So it took a little bit to go ahead and get the proper bolt pattern on the mount that comes with the plane. So we got that going on. We've got that drilled, and now we're going to go ahead and get our motor mounted. More to come. All right, friends, our motor is mounted onto our firewall, and now we're going to go ahead and get our plastic firewall installed on the wing. More to come. All right, friends, this is one of the simplest motors to install. You take the motor mount, slide it into the preformed slot here, push it down like so. Make sure your wires are in place. Then take the bottom half of the wing that you see here, put that on the wing itself, give it a bit of a squeeze so the other half of the slot here on the bottom half goes on top of the motor mount itself. Boom. There you go. Motor's installed. And all you do is just take your cowling, slip your cowling in place, like so. Push that on. And voila, whoops. Your motor is installed. There you go. All right, friends, more to come. All right, friends, as we continue our update, you can see we've got the bottom half of the right wing glued in place. I'd recommend using 15-minute epoxy because you're going to need some working time. Don't use 30-minute because you do have to stand here and hold it until it sets. What we did took 2 people. You're going to need hands in a couple different places because you're talking about the area here, 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 all the way up here. Very large area. And I realized I needed to add the clamps even after the glue had set because some of the surfaces were starting to lift up. So just a friendly FYI on that one. All right, let's let this dry fully overnight, and then we will work on the left wing. More to come. All right, friends, as you can see, we've got our bottom portion of our wing glued in place, our gears in place, and it just looks fantastic. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, we're going to join the wing halves together. We're not putting on the bottom piece just yet because I found it's going to be easier to join the halves together before we put the bottom piece on. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to use the airplane as the jig. Because this wing has these two foam pieces, one here and one here, they wind up going through and sliding underneath the rear of the fuselage here. So that actually helps to hold the halves together. And we are going to screw the wings in place here and here because you can see the little openings here for the bolts. So the fuselage is going to act as the jig to help keep the wing from twisting. So let's get the halves glued together. All right, friends, we've got our wing halves glued together, and the wing is bolted to the fuselage, and hopefully this will work out. We'll let this dry overnight, and we will find out tomorrow whether or not I accidentally glued the wing to the fuselage. More to come. All right, friends, as you can see, not only did we not glue the wing to the fuselage, we're actually in the process of gluing on the bottom left portion of the left wing. So let's let this sit overnight, and we'll continue with the last little bits and pieces. More to come. All right, friends, you can see we've got our bottom half of our wing in place, and it just looks fantastic. We even have our retracts installed, and we also have our engine covers installed as well on the cowlings. And you can see the retracts, they just work fantastic. Perfect. And back down. Excellent. All right, we're going to go ahead and get the wing installed on the plane, get our radio installed, put our props and spinners on, and then just balance her out. More to come. All right, friends, we've got our wing on our plane, and our gear are working great. And back down again. Perfect. Now we're just setting the throws in our control surface, and we'll get her out for a taxi test, and then we'll maiden her. More to come. All right, friends, the Beachcraft Duke is done, and she just looks fantastic. Really happy with the way it came out. We're going to go ahead and do a quick taxi test, make sure everything's working right, and then she'll be ready for maiden. Here we go.
All right, friends, let's do a quick taxi test. Down, oops. All right. Let's see. Okay. All right. Oop, okay, that's enough. There we go. All right. One more quick run up. Get rid of some of the grass. Sounds great. All right, friends. More to come.